clearly signposted, and when you leave the building, the assembly points are on the High Street outside the Guildhall. Most importantly, please, members and other speakers are reminded to use their microphones when speaking. Okay, thank you. Margaret, do we have any substitutes or apologies, please?
There are no substitutes today, Chair, but we have apologies from Councillor Rains. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've also got declarations of interest. Steph, I don't know whether you want to say something for that, please.
Thank you, Chair. The two items before committee today are council applications. I'm not aware that any of these have been to committees that members will have been involved with before, so as far as I'm concerned, there are no declarations of interest to be made, unless anybody's got any personal declarations. No, I'm not seeing any. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So we're just going to go through the minutes of the previous planning committee, which was 16th of October. If I go through them page by page, we've got page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So is everyone happy that they're a true reflection of the meeting? And thank you, Margaret, for doing those. Thank you. We've also, to note, we have the previous conservation panel, which met on the 1st of October. They have met after that, but we've got the minutes of this one, haven't we? So just some interesting comments from the advisory panel, and we are just going to note these and take it that you've all read them. Okay, thank you. We didn't have any site visits today. I think probably both items, people probably know them extremely well. Margaret, do we have public participation or representation, please?
We have no public participation, Chair, but we do have representation on items 9 and 10. 9 being the Guildhall application. Mark Sherwood, property manager, is in attendance. And on item 10, for the Foregate Street Railway Station, we have Mark again in attendance, along with Elaine Knight, the arts director from Seven Arts, who will speak on the item. Thank you.
Great, thank you. It's really wonderful having the applicants come and to speak actually and help members if they've got questions. So thank you for coming and making time for us. We're going to move to item 9. Item 8 is going to be coming to the next month's committee. So this is the Guildhall, and we're going to have an officer presentation from Paul. Are we? Yes? Great, thank you.
Good afternoon, members. So this application relates to the Guildhall, which is, I think we all know where it is, situated on High Street here in Worcester. The Guildhall is one of the most recognisable and significant historic buildings within the city. It's a Grade 1 listed building, which is the highest grade of listing that a building can get from Historic England, and it is the focal point within the city centre, the historic city conservation area. Just a bit of background just for information, that the building was constructed in 1720s, and the building represents one of the finest examples of Georgian civic architecture, and it has inspired Guildhalls across the country. As we know, it's in active use by the City Council, and it's owned and maintained by the Council, and hence this application is before members this afternoon, as it relates to a council-owned building. The application seeks listed building consent for structural repair of a timber floor beam, which is an associated redecoration works. The works are confined within the first floor King's Room, which is identified as F25, and it sits directly below the Queen's Room, S18, on the second floor. So just some photos to show the King's Room. I'm sure some of you may have had meetings in there during the time where this crack has appeared, and that's just to show the location of the beam in the King's Room, and that's the floorboards above in the Queen's Room, which is out of use at the moment. A structural engineer's report confirms that while the beam's overall integrity remains sound, the lower section has fractured vertically, resulting in damage to decorative plasterwork. The repair works are therefore essential to prevent further movement and deterioration. The repair will involve the careful removal of the floorboards above and the plaster below to expose the defective beam. The beam will then be strengthened using steel plates fixed both at its upper and lower surfaces, secured with bolts at regular intervals. Following the structural works, the floorboards will be reinstated and traditional lime plaster and oak laths used to repair the ceiling, with the final decoration to match existing finishes. All interventions will be concealed within the existing voids so that no visual change will occur. Not sure whether that's so visible, but that's the schedule of works that has been provided as part of the application, which is available for members to have looked at before the meeting, but it just shows the detail in which property services have put into this application to be able to support the approach. So in terms of the works, officers consider that they represent the minimum necessary intervention following best practice conservation methods, and they will use traditional materials throughout, maintaining the historic character of the rooms and ensuring no harm to the building's significance. In terms of consultations, no public objections have been received, and you'll note that Historic England and the Conservation Officer, which is relayed in the late papers, rates no objections and note that the repairs are essential to preserving the building's integrity. They consider the works are well considered and suitable materials and sensitive reinstatement has been proposed. The Council's Archaeological Officer supports the proposal, recommending photographic record of the affected areas and a watching brief during the works. In considering applications for listed building consent, Section 16 of the Planning, Listed Buildings and Conservation Areas Act of 1990 requires that special regard is paid to the desirability of preserving the buildings and features of special architectural historic interest. Officers consider that the proposals represent the minimum intervention necessary to secure the building's continued stability, undertaken with full regard to conservation best practice and the use of appropriate traditional materials. The works will not cause any harm to the building's significance and will instead contribute positively to its preservation and ongoing civic use. To ensure that the works are carefully managed and recorded, conditions are recommended requiring prior notification to the Conservation Officer before works commence and a photographic record of the areas affected to Historic England's Level 1 to 2 standard. In summary, the proposed works are essential to the preservation of the Grade 1 listed heritage asset, and they have been carefully designed, fully supported by the Historic England and the Council's heritage specialists, and have no adverse impact on the building's historic significance. The works will ensure continued safe and sustainable use of the Guildhall for future generations. Accordingly, it is recommended that listed building consent is granted subject to the conditions set out within the officer's report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. As Margaret said, we've got Mark Sherwood, the Property Manager of the City Council here. You've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Well, I think Paul's detailed it quite well. There's quite a lot of information in the application. So we're obviously keen to retain as much of the material as we can of the original structure. So it's really a case of I'm here to answer any questions that anyone may have.
That's really helpful, thank you. So has anyone got any questions for Mark, please? Councillor Kinsley.
Thank you. Really just for my own interest, because I'm sure you've thought everything through thoroughly and discussed things with the relevant experts, but I'm just interested, so the picture's gone, but underneath the beam, how do you make sure, I understand there's a plate going to go to kind of secure the beam, that plate presumably isn't going to be visible from underneath? How do you make sure that it's not visible when you kind of do the repair from underneath? Do you understand what I'm asking?
At the moment, at the moment there is a bit of a void under the beam, so I think there's possibly some packers where the plaster is underneath, so there is a bit of a gap. So when we put the plate underneath and we've got the bolts, there is room for those, and then the plaster will go underneath, probably back on the traditional way with some packers, and it will be a little bit further down from the plate.
Councillor Cross.
Thank you very much for coming today, and really encouraged to see the detail in the schedule of works as well, and pretty much everything there absolutely floats my boats from a nerdy perspective. So, you know, really commend that detail and that process. Thank you. Question about the steel plate. How is that? Could you outline how that's protected from corrosion? Obviously, lime being sort of fairly corrosive to steel. I note the use of the stainless steel screws for the Riven Oak laths. You know, good detail. Really like that. Just wondering about that steel plate. Is that just conventional primer and top coat, or what kind of paint protection? Thank you.
Yeah, so it will be a steel plate, but it's usually had some sort of primer to it. So it's not just, it's left. I mean, it is a dry environment. It's not actually extending, the plate doesn't extend into the wall where potentially you could get possible damp. So it stops short of that. So it wouldn't have any issues as far as sort of damp and moisture and rusting.
Thank you. Councillor Udall, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think the answers to these questions are going to be obvious, but I think I need to ask them anyway. First of all, it says on page 21, minimum amount of work required. Accept that, but do we have a time scale for what kind of period of time would be required for those works? I see an exchange of smiles, so obviously that's been discussed already. And what kind of equipment would be needed to actually undertake such works? And have we got confidence that we've got sufficient access to the rooms in part of that building to get that equipment there? And I'm assuming, final part, no external work would be required or access would be required to the outside of the building.
Okay, do the easy one first. Yeah, there's no external access required. As far as timescales go, well, let's step back to the access. At the moment, the room above is not being used, so that's vacant. And then the F25 is a meeting room, so we can actually sort of close that down quite easily and get access through there. To actually access the works, the floorboards, as you've seen in the photos, we've taken those up for investigation works, so we will just extend that and we can access that quite easily to get the plates on top. And then underneath, it is a case of taking the plastic carefully down, but again, it will be, because we've got the room is not used for anything else, that will be quite easy to get to as well.
And I'm assuming there's no problem in gaining equipment to that part of the building. I'm conscious it's very narrow stairways.
Yeah, that won't be a problem. Okay. No, it's just going to be some sort of small scaffold tower.
Councillor Kimberley, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got a couple of very basic questions, really, from the perspective of man on the street. What would you say is the expected sort of lifespan of this repair? I mean, in terms, obviously, if you do a repair, is this something that will last into the long term? Is it something that is short term, needs to be revisited in the future? And I assume that there will be assessments that have been carried out in other parts of the Guildhall to ensure that they don't have similar issues to this one. I'm just curious, really, to get your perspective on that. Thank you.
Well, the cause of the actual cracking itself, when you actually look at the beam, there's almost like a part of it has sort of come away from the main section. So it's possibly caused through a shake. So a shake is a naturally occurring crack when you fell a tree and the timber dries out the moisture and you get cracking in it. And it's possibly one where it's actually been cut that has been near the surface, and with, you know, sort of walking, bouncing around, that sort of thing, it's actually sort of aggregated and split, and then that's sort of fractured the plaster underneath. So we've no real concern that, you know, this is going to happen elsewhere. I mean, it's obviously manifested itself through the cracking of the plaster. So we've been able to identify that and do investigation works, which we would, you know, when we find these. As far as the repair itself, we see this as a long-term repair. It's effectively with the plates on top and sandwiching the whole thing, compressing it, that is going to be structurally sound for many years to come.
Yeah. Councillor Rudge.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to try and ask an even more basic question than Councillor Kimberley. Let's see how I get on. I'm interested in the process. Presumably the beam is bowing because of the crack.
It's only this one section. It's only this one section, it's not the whole beam is structurally. So as Paul mentioned, it is still structurally sound, but it's this one part that's just sort of come adrift.
Thank you. So do you have to sort of jack it up to put the steel plates in so that they're parallel and able to support the beam?
I think that's one of the things we'd have to look at when we actually uncover. So we've been looking at it from the top when we actually take the plaster out from the bottom. So I don't think it's not going to be a case of jacking the whole beam up. It's just that one part as to whether that needs sort of pushing into place or whether it's physically being able to push into place.
Okay, I've got a question, if that's okay. I know that Paul mentioned redecoration. I know that sometimes when you paint a small area, it really stands out. Are you painting more of the room than just that small area? Thank you.
It's always very difficult to touch up decorations, particularly when they're older and light and fading, that sort of thing. So we would be looking to decorate the whole ceiling, or if whatever areas are affected, we will just decorate everything. So if the walls are affected, we will do the redecoration of the walls as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Have I got any other questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. You're free to go back. Right, I'll open the floor now for questions for Paul, please, if anyone's got any.
Chair, I apologise for jumping about in that room, which may have caused the problem in the first place. But I see no problem with the recommendation in front of us, so I don't think there's any further issues which are relevant. So I'm happy to move recommendation of approval.
Councillor Amos?
Make the most of it, Chair. I'm happy to move to second the recommendation to approve.
Councillor, oh, so we've got a proposer and we've got a seconder, but Councillor Kimbley has indicated to speak. Can I? Yeah, Councillor Kimbley.
I was only just going to comment that it's a completely uncontentious proposal, and I just congratulate officers on being such good stewards of the Guildhall. I think it is telling that we have got a Guildhall that is several hundred years old and in fine shape and continuing to serve, as compared to the County Hall, which has been about 50 years and is pretty much condemned. Thank you.
Yeah, well said, Councillor Kimbley.
In a bipartisan way, Chair, I totally concur.
I think that might be unanimous. Councillor Agar, did you want to speak?
Thank you. With all due respect to Councillor Udall, there are good reasons why we don't conga around the upper floor of this building. And no, I promise you, I mean, I did not even allow Chinese acrobats to jump around. And, these are 18th century joists. They do need a little extra care. I mean, if you want to conga, you can do it around the bottom floor. But fortunately, the room in question is too small to do that. And I think Mr. Sherwood knows it will be after his blood if the room collapsed completely. But no, I think it's an excellent idea, and we do need to take care of this glorious building. So thank you for all the work.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Agar. Councillor Cross?
Thank you, Chair. Is my understanding correct that the reason why this is before us is because it's a City Council building, and also because, in terms of listed building, repairs to a listed building, because there are some non-original elements, as in the steel flitch plates going in, that's why planning consent or listed building consent is needed in the first place, because it's not just a like-for-like repair, but there's actually something else going in.
Through you, Chair, in terms of, you're absolutely right in terms of the repair, and the idea of a phrase for like is sometimes a missed phrase. There can be repairs that are done, but they have to not affect the significance of the building. So there's a judgment there. So even if there was a window that was placed that was like for like, if it's new material that's been put in, that would require listed building consent. So it requires listed building consent, and the reason it's before committee is because it's a City Council building.
Okay, Councillor Rudge.
Thank you, Chair. Could I ask about the funding for the repairs? Is it...
Through you, Chair, without wanting to cut you off, in terms of what we're considering whether they're appropriate works to the listed building. In terms of the budgets and the finances for the works, that is for another committee's consideration.
Glad I asked, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm hearing lots of positive comments. And I suppose it's summed up really by the Conservation Officer, who says, works, which prevent further decay or loss of historic fabric while retaining the building's authenticity and integrity. And I think, you know, we're all not really asking questions or speaking about this because actually the report was very thorough and having you come to speak was really helpful. So we've had a proposer and a seconder. We've got no additional conditions. We can just go to vote.
No combos.
Yeah, we can go to vote. Yep. Yeah. Great. Okay, so can I see all hands in favour, please? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Great. Okay, so we'll now move to item 10. And this is the Foregate Street Bridge, and we've got Ros doing the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so this application seeks listed building consent for the installation of the mural on the western abutment of the Grade 2 listed Foregate Street Railway Bridge, adjacent to Foregate Street Station in the Cathedral Ward. The bridge, constructed in 1906, is a well-known local landmark and forms part of Worcester's historic railway infrastructure. The proposed mural would occupy a 6 metre by 2 metre section of the western abutment where 1960s cladding was previously removed. Before I turn to the assessment, I'd like to acknowledge the late representation received from the Conservation Advice Panel. The panel objects to the proposal, expressing concern that fixing a memorial to this bridge structure would diminish the architectural integrity of the listed bridge and would not conserve or enhance the character or appearance of the conservation area. CAP notes, now the bridge and its surroundings have been cleared and decluttered, the revealed stonework should be celebrated and potentially cleaned rather than covered by new artwork. This also suggests there may be more appropriate. They also suggest there may be more appropriate alternative locations, such as within the railway station itself. In response, officers acknowledge CAP's comments and respect the panel's heritage focus. However, the proposal has been carefully designed to be fully reversible, with the artwork mounted on a lightweight frame that avoids any direct attachment to the stonework. No drilling, fixings or adhesives would be applied to the historic fabric. Conservation Office considers that the proposal would cause no physical harm to the listed building and the visual change represents a low level of less than substantial harm outweighed by public benefits of cultural celebration, local participation and improved visual interest at a key city gateway. The artwork also revives our historic tradition of using this space for public display, historically occupied by painted signage and cinema or excursion posters, and this has heritage precedent in this particular location. Members advise that these comments have been included in the late papers and are fully considered in the heritage balance set out within the committee report. The proposed artwork forms part of the Railway 200 celebrations. It's been developed through community engagement involving local residents and students. The mural will be painted on lightweight aluminium composite panels mounted on a reversible batten system that avoids any direct contact with the bridge's masonry, ensuring the proposal causes no harm to the historic fabric. From a heritage perspective, the Conservation Officers welcomes the proposal, noting that the mural receives a historic tradition of using this space for public display, previously advertising cinema shows and excursions, and that it will enhance the setting of both of the bridge and the surrounding conservation area. There are no objections from statutory consultees and no other third-party comments have been received. In policy terms, the proposal accords with policies SWDP6, SWDP24 of the South Worcestershire Development Plan, as well as the heritage provisions of the National Planning Policy Framework. Any limited, less than substantial harm arising from the introduction of a contemporary feature is clearly outweighed by public benefits, including cultural enrichment, community participation and enhanced visual amenity at a key city gateway. The proposal is therefore considered to represent a sensitive and reversible intervention that celebrates Worcester's railway heritage while enhancing the public realm. Accordingly, it is recommended that listed bill consent can be granted, subject to the conditions set out in section 9 of the report.
Great, thank you very much, Ros. What lovely historic photos and those posters as well. It looks really, really helpful, I think. So we've got Mark, the property manager from Worcester City again, and Elaine Knight, the arts director for Seven Arts, as public speakers. You've got 5 minutes to share, please. Thank you.
Whilst there's quite a lot of information in there about the actual frame and the fixings to the abutment wall, we don't actually have any designs for the artwork. So the artwork is being procured by Seven Arts, and I'd like to introduce you to Elaine Knight, who's the arts director of Seven Arts, to talk a bit more about that.
Thank you, everyone. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the process of co-creation. I'm very aware that having no design here isn't that helpful, but as the report says, that kind of the public participation and engagement is really important in this process. And I thought, just because I know some of you are at Bridges of Light, I'd give you an example of another previous co-creation project, so you can maybe have a little bit of context. So the projection that was on the bridge that some of you would have seen during Bridges of Light, or some images, was all co-created. So it's about finding the right artists to go and work with the relevant groups. They workshop lots of ideas, they take all of those ideas away, and then they put them into a professionally designed piece of artwork. So sometimes co-creation can be misinterpreted as free-for-all and anyone can do anything, but actually within the constraints of a really strong framework, it's actually you do produce a really good piece of quality artwork. So I just wanted to give that as an example. So for us, finding the right artist was really important. So we did an open call, and we had 14 applications from across the country. We have chosen Sarah Brown, who works from Tewkesbury, so not quite local, but not too far away. But she has worked in Worcestershire 3 or 4 times previously, most recently in Redditch, creating a large mural, which was co-designed with the community. In the brief, we were really clear that they needed to be sensitive to the heritage of the bridge, and that the inspiration needed to be drawn from the vintage railway posters that used to be there. So we are confident that we have the right artist. The workshops have started this week, both with platform housing and with students from Howe College. So we have that intergenerational concept where the artist will bring, elicit all of the memories and stories. And as it says in the report, it is about celebrating Railway 200 and the importance of travel. And the funding has come from Great Western Railway, so that's really important, hence the reason for putting it where it is, opposite Worcester Foregate Street as you come out, but also to draw attention to the new walkway and the arches that have been developed through the Cultural Development Fund. So the idea is you come out of the station and it draws you down to the new arches that are there. I'm happy to answer any further questions. It depends what else you want to know. I could go on talking for 10, 15 minutes, so maybe it's easier to respond to anything. I don't know. Sorry, Chair, I'm taking over. Sorry, over to you.
No, that's great. Thank you. Councillor Amos, you want to go first?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think this is excellent, very exciting. I wish you well. But could I just urge that you, in your consultations, you include railway staff themselves, because this is really about railway history. I know a number of people who work on the railways, and they're very concerned, very interested in their own history. There's a chap called, I won't name him, well, Julian, I won't say any more about, who's very knowledgeable, very interested, works in the travel centre. Oh. Yeah, I know how to turn it off now. But he works in the travel centre and in the booking office, and along with colleagues. But I'm sure they would have a view. And I think, bearing in mind their long-serving staff, they should have, I would say, a pretty big input into what's going on here. And the railways have been their lives for many, many years. So I hope you would include people like that, not just what I call fancy artists. And we want something nice, but it's got to have the history element. That's what I would argue for, because otherwise it's defeating the object of having it in that particular location.
Great. Any other questions?
That's a yes, Chair.
Sorry, am I supposed to? Yes, I will. Yes, we will take that on board. Thank you.
Yeah, that was lots of nodding. Yeah, noted. Councillor Kinsley.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, echo Councillor Amos's views here. Really exciting project. Personally, I think it'd be a great thing to do to have this nice mural on there. Can I just check, so on the funding, and again, if there's external funding available, it's fantastic to be using that. And will that cover the complete cost, original cost of creation and installation? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so if I could just follow up. So am I right in thinking that any ongoing maintenance costs will be covered by somewhere else, not the fund, doesn't have it is for the original installation, is that right?
I believe that's the City Council.
Yeah,
Is that right?
any ongoing maintenance costs will be with ourselves as property services.
I've got Councillor Barnes, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think really exciting that we're celebrating public transport, and the issue I'm slightly concerned about is how it will reflect into the fantastic public art that's already in the station. Now we've got the Worcester colours on the station, which look really good and have bounced that station up several levels, in my opinion. So is that going to be taken into account in any way at all?
The main thing that will be taken into account is the vintage poster design, and so kind of, yeah, so there is a resemblance. Sarah has been to the station and seen what else is around there, and will take into consideration kind of its positioning, I guess. So yeah, I will make sure that she is aware of that and that she takes that into consideration. I mean, we certainly wouldn't want to duplicate that, but to be aware and sensitive to the two, so that they kind of complement each other rather than go against each other. Yes.
Councillor Cross.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I like this concept. And I've got two questions. Well, one question for Elaine Knight and two for Mark Sherwood, please. So my first comment is I really like, again, the idea of fixings into mortar joints and use of stainless steel materials. So that's much more sensitive than actually drilling into the bricks. I like the whole, ultimate reversibility of the scheme without causing, fabric damage. So, Elaine, what duration is envisaged for the lifetime of the artwork, please, or the installation?
So it's going on to Diabond, which has, Mark, you have a better idea than that, kind of a long lifespan, kind of probably 10 years plus?
Yeah, I'd say so, yes. Yeah.
So it's not a transient thing, but it can obviously come off if we need it to.
Thank you. So on to ACM panels. So then my questions then for Mark about the structure behind. So we've got vertical patterns treated software, presumably 25 to 35 mil thick. Are they running vertically, horizontally?
I'd say they probably run vertically.
Great, thank you.
What we need to do is we've also got to bear in mind that there's a lot of water sort of coming down that viaduct, down the wall, and it obviously needs to get from the top to the bottom. So if we put horizontally, yeah.
Perfect. Yes, thank you. So yeah, for wet water to run through it past, but also no stagnant air as well. So 25 is a little skinny on facade cladding or rain screen, but that's not really what we're looking at. It's a sheltered location. I appreciate that. The core of the panels, these aluminium composite panels, are they the polyethylene core? Are we using the fire-resistant version? Are there restrictions from Railtrack, for example, or Network Rail?
It's probably something I would need to ask the question of, but obviously being attached to the railway viaduct, it's a good question that it would need to be fireproof, but as it's aluminium, I can imagine that it wouldn't have any issues with fire anyway.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, a previous experience selling facade cladding, and one of the materials, yes, copper was the background, but composite materials, so the importance of the core is really important. Sure, we're not talking about tall structures here, but it's if it's only a few pounds difference to go for the fire-resistant version, that would give me a lot of comfort, and probably would be comforting for others as well. Just then, once ticked all the boxes. So yes, and I note that the mural would then, maintenance would then ultimately become responsibility of Worcester City Council. So seeing that within within the documents on the website. So just wanting to make sure that point's aware to all members, and ultimately this is a reversible scheme, and I'm just thinking about what would we do in case of graffiti attack or other things or physical scratching, because it can become a bit of a chalkboard. The problem with the aluminium stuff is it would grin through with any scratch. So just wondering about where our responsibility is, what we're taking on potentially money-wise. I love the idea. I'm just wary of what risks might we be taking on from a maintenance perspective, and how flexible the understanding would be in case of issue, that we're not, forced to putting in costs that we don't necessarily have, say, in a couple of years' time. Thank you.
Sorry, can I just clarify? I think we had this before. Costs are not a planning consideration. No. We keep on getting this mentioned. We are considering what's in front of us and the appropriateness of it. Okay, so I think yes. Is it a surface that will resist graffiti? And it is probably what we can ask.
Yeah, just to emphasise that you can get the artwork can have an anti-graffiti application to it, and also bear in mind that also just on number 57 there is one of the city CCTV cameras just right in front of that alongside that artwork.
Thank you.
Great, Councillor Udall. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I love this. I have great appreciation of public art, and this is going to improve the city considerably, as long as it gives direction for people to go and visit St John's as well. That would be even more wonderful. One very brief question. Obviously, this is under a bridge, and when it gets dark at night, it might not be visible. I'm assuming there's no plans for illumination to make sure it is visible at night, especially so it can be seen in its full glory when people come out of Foregate Street Station at night and see an illuminated piece of art in front of them. That's not something which I see in the plans, but is it something which is potentially possible?
I think that, there are no plans for illuminating it. Also, the viaduct is obviously owned by Network Rail, so we do need to get Network Rail approval for anything we do. But there are no plans at the moment to illuminate it. You've got obviously the natural illumination of the existing lampposts, and there's some additional lighting just on the corner of the arches as well.
I've got Councillor Kimberley. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm afraid my colleague, Councillor Cross, took the question on lifespan of the thing, so that my question is sort of has been asked. But I did want to comment and sort of say what a great scheme I think this is, and thank you for putting it together. I think it's it's a really nice way to bring what might otherwise be a very blank space and a slightly dilapidated looking wall back into full use to make it look a lot more attractive. And sort of it is one of the first impressions that people will have stepping off the train and stepping out into Worcester, and it is going to be transforming that space from something that might be perhaps a little off-putting or a little bit sort of depressing, but actually making it something lively and interesting and bringing it into life. You've talked about obviously the artist likely to be drawing inspiration from sort of vintage posters, vintage materials. I think you've gathered from around the room there's obviously a lot of interest in old railways and sort of railway heritage. Are there any particular sort of areas within the county that you think that inspiration will be drawn from? Sort of anything that you can offer sort of in terms of insight into the artistic process that we might expect to follow?
So the workshops are only happening today, so they haven't even maybe just finished, so can't give you much of an insight into what's come out of the workshops today, I'm afraid. But Sarah's got a particular interest in the vintage style posters, and certainly her application reflected how she would use them, certainly in terms of colour and in terms of style. So I'm very much hoping that the final design will reflect that. She also, will need to present to us before it comes back here, a design that we feel happy with. So there may be several iterations of that before we sign it off. So it's just part of that process of making sure that, we don't accept what's given to us as a final design, but there is a whole way of kind of feeding back and for her to take on board those comments and for her to amend. So certainly after today's workshops, there will be a bit of a debrief and a bit of a consultation around what's come out of it and where we go for the next thing, and certainly feedback Councillor Amos's idea of talking to staff. So yeah, it's an ongoing dialogue. It's not about just commissioning and then being presented at the end.
I've got Councillor Rudge. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. one question for Mark, one for Elaine. Mark, first of all, can you tell me something about Ashlar? I know nothing about it, but it says that when the old boarding was taken down, it revealed the Ashlar or something. I presume that's a sort of stonework, is it? And if it is, can you say something about that stonework? If that was cleaned up, would that look beautiful on its own?
I think the problem you've got in that situation is, I mean, firstly, it's owned by Network Rail. So the other thing is, I mean, when you look at it and the abutment on the other side, there's rainwater sort of leaching out of the stonework, and then it causes green algae. So if you cleaned it, it wouldn't be probably too long before it all came back again. When we took the cladding down, I think it did offer some protection to that abutment, and it's surprising if you looked at a photo of when we took it down and what it looks like now, and that was probably 9-10 months ago, and how it's effectively deteriorated in appearance. So I think even if it was cleaned, it wouldn't really stay clean.
Thank you, Jeff. So are we talking about solid stone as the base? It's obviously not brick. It's very hard to see from the pictures.
Yeah, I mean, the stonework, Ashlar stonework is generally just a thin sort of face stone. I don't actually know whether that is Ashlar. I would have thought it's more sort of structural stonework, being the viaduct, but understanding the construction behind it, I don't know how it's built, but I would have said that would be larger sections of stone.
Thank you. Elaine, my question to you is, can you tell me something about the origins of this project? Is it part of a bigger programme across the city? Is it a one-off? Who instigated it? I'd love to know some more about that.
So it kind of finishes off a little bit of the Cultural Development Fund Arches development. So obviously once the chicken shop, as it's affectionately known, was taken down and the walkway was revealed, we wanted to put something there to signpost people down towards the arches. We can't advertise through this piece of artwork because we need advertising consent, and that's not part of this application. So we wanted a piece of artwork that's kind of welcomed people into the city as they got off the train and signposted people down towards the walkway and the new arches development. So that's kind of where it started from. So it's it kind of right from the beginning of the Cultural Development Fund money in 2019, with the idea of developing that whole walkway into an area from the station down to the river. So it's I kind of guess one of the final pieces of that project, if that helps.
I've got Councillor Agar now, please.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, thank you to Seven Arts for coming along. Thank you, Elaine. And thank you, Mark, for being so informative. We often forget, don't we, that we are a railway city and that it's a crucial part of our heritage. One only has to think of the impressive Shrub Hill building, which was once the headquarters of the Great Western Railway. And I'm sure all of this is coming into your thoughts. I don't know if you were aware, but perhaps you can tell me, that there is a civic element to the railway heritage of the city in the shape of the Mayor's Chain, and that was donated by A.C. Sheriff, whose portrait hangs in the Guildhall, in fact. I think it's outside this door. I didn't look as I came in, but it was before. And he was, of course, a railway baron who played a huge part in the railway heritage of this city and building the railways. So I just, you may not have known, I don't know, but the shape of the links in the Mayor's Chain are specifically represent the shape of railway carriages, I'm told.
I will go and investigate. No, I didn't.
No,
so that's really interesting.
I mention it because it's
sure
crucial to our civic life.
No, absolutely, and I'll make sure I pass that on to Sarah. She'll be very interested in that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's such a nugget of information, Councillor Agar. Thank you. I've got Councillor Ramos, please.
Yes, thank you. Just on one point of the protection of it, obviously we've got anti-graffiti paint and so on, which is good, but we do have a lot of morons around, and I'm concerned about the physical damage to it. In other words, the material that it's made of, you know, a kick or a punch or that kind of, we can clean it up, that's good, but it's actually protecting the integrity of the thing itself. So could you just say a little bit about the materials? And if, for example, somebody hits it or thumps it, it's going to be dented, can that be undone, or what? How does that work?
Well, the aluminium panel itself, I mean, that's going to take, you know, some beating to dent it.
Yeah.
So I think physically it is going to take a lot to damage it.
Yeah.
As I said, there is a CCTV camera as well, just above number 57, which literally just points straight at it.
Yeah.
So it is going to be under surveillance as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose you're not going to be specifying something that's never been used somewhere else in the country before, and the manufacturer will be selling something that is tried and tested.
Yeah, from an integrity point of view, it is going to be durable in itself, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the conservation area panel's comments that about cleaning the stonework. Now, you've already said it's gone downhill in the last 9 months that it's been uncovered. So this could end up as a really grotty piece of wall with a beautiful artwork on it. Is there any way that we can protect it so it looks better, so the stonework continues to look good, so that the artwork is framed by some good stonework rather than slime?
The artwork is going to be on battens, so it's going to be sort of raised off the wall a little bit, so anything behind it will sort of water and slime will be sort of behind the artwork. It's going to be difficult to actually keep, as I say, keep the stone clean, and it would also be really the responsibility of Network Rail as the owners of that to maintain that, which is probably going to be you know, not done regularly, if at all.
Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I realised a question that I'd failed to ask. There's the centres of the battens, the fixing centres, the distance between the battens. Has that been advised yet? Do we know roughly where that's at? And is it the thickness of the ACM panel? Is it a 4 mm overall thickness?
Sorry, Councillor Cross, what is the purpose of asking these questions?
It answers the other questions about damage. The people concerned about robustness and resistance to physical interaction.
I think
It's a bit of a technical matter.
I think we have to accept that we've got an applicant who's got some expertise in this area, who will be carrying out this project with due diligence, because it's being funded by Great Western, that it's in their interest to do it properly.
Yep.
And I just need to understand if you've got a problem with what's been presented to you, or whether there's a gap in knowledge.
The answer given will help satisfy my ability to say, yeah, I think I'm happy to support this. My final question is about whether it's face fixings, whether tamper-proof fixings, or whether they're sort of secret fixed in some ways. These
Okay,
panels.
so everyone, if you get really technical, you're losing everybody else. So your point of fixings is what?
How are these panels fixed to the battens, and is there any advice any response you can give about the distance between the battens in terms of the reassurance about robustness against physical interaction if someone tries to kick it, for example, so that are we looking at the same sort of robustness that one gets on buildings where these sorts of panels are used, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think that's it's in the detailed design really. The vertical battens are going to, as Councillor Amos mentioned about the integrity of it, we're going to have to need the battens at quite close centres to make it robust and structurally sound. What we don't want is just a few battens and then it's quite flimsy and easy to grab and pull off. So it's definitely something we would look at, and even if we have to effectively over-engineer it to make it stronger, then we definitely will.
Okay, Councillor Reg, is it new question?
Thank you, Chair. Final question from me. Elaine, have you considered any other sites for this fantastic bit of art.
Councillor Rudge, we're considering the application in front of us, not whether it's the correct site. We're considering the application as this piece of artwork on this site. So not have people considered other sites. I don't think that's appropriate. Is that fair?
Through you, Chair, I think it probably is based that this is a listed building application. If it was an advertisement consent application, I think it would be a relevant consideration for you in terms of what other where else it was situated. What we're considering is the listed building consent, which is literally the fixing to the bridge only. Whilst there is an interest to the artwork and the reasons why that needs to be fixed, in terms of what requires listed building consent is literally the battens being fixed to the bridge. That's what we're considering, but we have provided for members the overall picture rather than just providing a picture of vertical battens attached to a bridge with no artwork. We're trying to provide the whole picture. I hope that's helpful.
I think that's really helpful. So put more information in the whole presentation and report to help members understand the project overall. But this is a listed building consent for artwork to the railway viaduct. That's the description. Right. Have I got any other questions for the speakers? No? Lovely, thank you. Can I have questions for officers now, please? Has anyone got any? Councillor Barnes, go.
This obviously sets a precedent for one side of the railway bridge. Are we likely to see any other schemes come forward in the near future? Because it just seems really exciting what's proposed on this occasion, and I wonder if you've got anything else in your back pocket.
Through you, Chair, we haven't had another proposal for the opposite side, but for me, the fact that if this is a successful project and it's going to be lasting 10 years plus, there's certainly scope then going forward for the opposite side to be utilised. And as you saw in the historic photos, that was the area by the station which historically had that type of artwork. So I don't see why not, but obviously we've got nothing proposed.
Councillor Reg.
Still on. Thank you, Chair. I'll state my ignorance before I ask the question so that it's clear that I'm still sort of learning how these things work. I'd love to know more about the process of this application in a sense, in that if, let's say, hypothetically, the committee rejected this application, the incredible amount of work that's gone on to do the, to do the auditions, if you like, to find an artist, etc., 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 seems to be almost sort of done back to front. And I wondered whether it would have made more sense to get the application approved, as it were, before finding the artist. But if that's an ignorant question, you can tell me, Paul.
Through you, Chair, in terms of what's before committee, is what's before committee, and you'll be aware that it's a matter for applicants to do in the process as they wish. This planning committee has considered planning applications at various different stages of a scope. It's not really for this committee to be able to comment one way or the other where the applicant is in terms of their project timeline. In terms of what we're considering is this appropriate? And the advice has been given. What is quite clear, and what the applicant did do, is have pre-application advice with the council before putting in this application. And we would encourage both the City Council, but also residents, to do exactly the same, because it provides that very clear scope in terms of the acceptability of how a project can run very smoothly.
That's very helpful, Paul. Councillor Udall.
Thank you, Chair. I can understand the feeling of members around this table wanting to have more information and more detail, but in reality what we've got in front of us is quite a simple planning application for something which I consider to be very exciting and something to look forward to for the future of the city and for that location. And with that in mind, I'll formally propose acceptance of the proposal for us to proceed, because I think it's something we should be excited about and not cautious about.
Thank you, Councillor Udall. Councillor Kimberley?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to second the proposal as well, if the opportunity comes up. It's lovely on a day like today to be able to sit down and discuss a proposal that is entirely, completely uncontroversial. It's a unifying, wonderful thing. It's going to be a piece of art that we can all enjoy, walking out of the station and having, first thing you'll see walking out of the station is this mural. It will be a wonderful welcome to the city. We are spotlighting our creative industries. We are putting them to good work. We are essentially advertising what a wonderful city we have got. That sounds really good to me. And I think it's brilliant that in Worcester we're talking about when other people are building walls, we're improving bridges. So I would really like to second this proposal as soon as possible. I think the only problem with a proposal like this is when it is this good, it's hard to find good questions to ask about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kimberley. So I've got a proposal from Councillor Udall and a seconder from Councillor Kimberley. I've got a couple of people who still just want to speak. So Councillor Kinsley, you seem quite keen to say something.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing in contravention of everything we've heard. I just wanted to clarify one thing, if I may, with Paul. So I did notice that in 1998 there was a proposal to put advertising up on the bridge, and it was an advertising application. And I just wanted to make sure that having this proposal on the wall won't then, if so, do we need to put anything in the conditions to make it clear that this is not advertising and it wouldn't have any impact on any, refusal of advertising or whatever, going down the line. That's all.
Through you, Chair, this is a listed building application. You're absolutely right that there was a proposal for an advertising hoarding, one of the 48-sheet hoardings, which was duly refused, as it should have been. I think you heard from the public speaker from Seven Arts that they're not looking at providing advertising, they're providing public art, and that's a very clear difference. So in terms of this application, if we were to have an advertising application for something similar, it certainly would probably have the same response. I can't see anything different. But it's very clear that this is a listed building consent for artwork which is being supported.
Councillor Reg, you seem quite keen as well.
Thank you, Chair. Always very keen. My reservation is this. When you look at the metal work on the top of the bridge, it is absolutely beautiful. And it's fascinating if you sit there having your coffee in whatever that place is. It's well kept, it's well painted, it's fantastic, it's good, and it's historic, culturally historic because of being in Latin, etc., etc. And personally, I think that's extremely well set off by the stonework. It's a great shame that we can't do more to, I know it's not within our gift, but do more to sort of make that stonework cleaner and fresher, and to set off the top of the bridge. I appreciate, we're not going to say that's in our gift, but I'm sure this is going to be a fantastic piece of artwork. But I would love also I just think the pillars and the brickwork is beautiful, and I don't think Councillor Kimberley should be putting words in anybody's mouth about it being uncontroversial. He doesn't know that, and he's got no right to say what other people think. So what I'm saying is other people have other opinions. And
this is planning committee, so it's like, I don't really want you calling out other members, please. We have got a proposal on the table, so I think if we've heard that you've got reservations. Is there anything else you want to say?
No.
Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Chair. I hadn't realised we'd moved it into the debate section already, which is why I sort of held back. I didn't have questions for officers. In terms of contributing to debate, I just want to say my concerns have pretty much been met. the commitment to all of the points in terms of robustness, etc., and that were concerns of mine, I feel have been met and addressed, and so I'm happy to support this in this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cross. Okay, so I think I'm getting a feel on the room that we're ready to vote. Yes? Okay, so we've got a proposal from Councillor Udall, seconded by Councillor Kimberley. We've got no amendments. No, so can I see all votes in favour, please? Okay, votes against? And that's everybody. So that was 1 against and everyone else voted. How many is that? 9. So we've got 9 in favour, 1 against, so that is carried. Thank you. We've just got one other item for any other business. Thank you.
Members, I believe that you'll have had circulated earlier today the revised streetscape design guide, and if not, it will be coming out tomorrow, so watch out for it, hot off the press. So the County Council have adopted the new streetscape design guide. I can't give you any insights into what's changed. It's one that officers will be able to provide something for you if needed at some point, but it's there. It's a link to their website. The website is provided in chapters. I haven't got a complete document yet, but you can download each individual section as you have an interest in particular areas. So for the next planning committee, we will be referring to the new Streetscapes Design Guide 2025, nice, shiny and new, and we'll refer to that just so that members are aware, because I know that there has been calls within the committee about when's it going to be revised. It's been revised and it's there. In terms of parking standards, that's the one thing I have looked at. They stay exactly the same as they were previously.
Chair, could I just add, I think Mr. Brown may just have been hinting at my involvement in this. If this doesn't matter, if this is the same guide that's been ignored for the last couple of years by County Highways, the new one will be no better. I make no further comment.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Amos. With no further business, I'm going to close today's meeting. Thank you.